Greetings, Commanders, Cerebrats, and Executors. In this episode, we are going to be talking about all the different units that the Terran race has. The SCV is the Terran Worker Unit. They mine minerals and gas and construct buildings. SCVs are small, they have 60 health, 0 armor, and are hovering units. Their weapon does 5 normal damage per hit and cannot be upgraded. SCVs cost 50 minerals and 1 supply and are built from the command center. SCVs also do all repairing for Terran units. They are both biological and mechanical and can be repaired by other SCVs and healed by medics. The Marine is a small unit with 40 health, 0 armor, and a normal damage weapon that does 6 damage per hit and gains +1 damage per upgrade. Marines cost 50 minerals and 1 supply and are built from the barracks. Marines can be upgraded with extra range and the stim ability from the academy. Each time the stim ability is used, the Marine takes 10 damage immediately but moves and shoots faster for a few seconds. Paired with medics to heal them, this can make a very high damage army. The medic is a small unit with no attack, 60 health, and 1 armor. Medics cost 50 gas, 50 minerals, 25 gas, and 1 supply. They are built from the barracks, but they require an academy first in order to build them. Medics have 3 abilities: Heal, which they start with, and Restoration and Optical Flare, which can be researched from the academy. You can also upgrade their energy storage from the academy. Heal causes the medic to move to nearby damaged biological units, such as Marines, and increase their health if they're not at full health, at the cost of the medic's energy. Because the heal ability has hotkey A, you can mix them in with Marines and use A move, and the medics will go to the place you target and heal damaged Marines they find along the way. Restoration costs 50 energy and removes Lockdown, Optical Flare, Irradiate, Plague, Ensnare, Parasite, and Maelstrom from the target unit. All of those are various status effects that can be applied by other abilities in the game. Optical Flare costs 75 energy, removes the target's ability to detect, and reduces the target's vision range to almost nothing. However, it doesn't take away the target's ability to shoot. So long as there are other friendly units nearby to give the target vision, it doesn't do much. Medics are almost exclusively used for their healing ability and mainly versus Zerg. Their other abilities are virtually never used at high levels of play.
You got my attention.
Firebats are small units with 50 health and 1 armor. Their attack does 2 bursts of 8 concussive damage in an area of effect, that's whitelist 16 here total, gaining +1 damage to each burst per upgrade, so that's +2 damage to the overall attack per upgrade you research. Firebats cost 50 minerals, 25 gas, 1 supply, and are built from the barracks, but they require an academy in order to build. Firebats also get the special ability Stim when you research it from the academy, which works the same way as it does for Marines. Firebats see very little use in general. They're mainly used versus Zerg, particularly versus Zerglings and underneath Dark Swarms. Even then, they're usually quite weak unless you can use them very well.
Something on your mind?
The Vulture is a medium hovering unit with 80 health and 0 armor. Their weapon does 20 concussive damage against ground, gaining 2 damage per upgrade. Vultures cost 75 minerals and 2 supply and are built from the factory. Vultures can have their speed upgraded and have the special ability Spider Mines researched from a machine shop attached to a factory. With the Spider Mine ability researched, Vultures can place Spider Mines. And I am going to show you this.
Something on your mind? Something on your mind?
When the ability is researched, Vultures can place Spider Mines.
Is that it?
Spider Mines burrow into the ground soon after being placed, where they can only be seen by enemies who are using detection. When an enemy ground unit, not hovering unit or flying unit, moves close to a spider mine, the mine pops up from the ground and explodes, dealing 125 damage in an area. This damage can't be upgraded. With well-timed attacks, enemies can kill spider mines just after they are placed or just before they explode. But generally, when you start laying mines down, the enemy is going to need detection in order to kill the spider mines and move around safely. Spider mines will not be triggered by hovering units, such as workers, but hovering units still take damage from the explosion if another unit triggers them. Spider mines will be triggered by cloaked units on the ground, even if there is no detection nearby. They won't reveal the cloaked units, they'll just pop up and explode, and they will damage the cloaked unit when they explode. Each vulture gets 3 spider mines once the spider mine ability is researched. There is no way to replenish or add more mines to a vulture. If you want additional mines, you have to build additional vultures. Vultures are generally very strong harassment units with their speed and good damage versus workers. They don't contribute so much to large-scale fights with high-tech armies, however.
Orders, sir!
The siege tank is a large unit with 150 health and 1 armor. Its weapon deals 30 explosive damage against ground and gains +3 damage per upgrade. Remember, explosive damage is the weapon's damage type. The siege tank's main anti-ground weapon does not deal damage to units in an area. Siege tanks cost 150 minerals, 100 gas, and 2 supply to build. They can only be built from factories with an attached machine shop add-on. From the machine shop, you can research the siege mode ability for the siege tank. This allows the tank to transition freely between tank mode and siege mode. The transformation takes a few seconds each time, during which the tank cannot move or attack. In siege mode, the tank cannot move, but it gets a different weapon, which has one of the longest ranges in the game and does 70 explosive damage in an area of effect, with 5 additional damage per upgrade. Siege tanks are incredibly powerful due to their ability to control territory. With enough tanks in siege mode, your opponent will be unable to beat you in a ground battle. However, they suffer from being slow to reposition due to their immobility in siege mode and when switching between modes. They are unmatched as a defensive tool against enemy ground forces.
Go ahead, Tacom.
The Goliath is a large unit with 125 health and 1 armor. It has 2 weapons. One weapon does 12 normal damage versus ground units with +1 damage per upgrade. The other fires 2 missiles of 10 explosive damage each for the listed 20 damage total that you see here. This is only versus air units, with +2 damage to each of those anti-air missiles per upgrade. Goliaths cost 100 minerals, 50 gas, and 2 supply. They are built from the factory, but you also have to have an armory to be able to build a Goliath. Goliaths can have their weapon range upgraded from a machine shop attached to a factory. Siege tanks completely outshine Goliaths in power for fighting ground armies, but Goliaths are the only unit that comes out of the factory that can attack air. They're generally used mainly for their anti-air capabilities.
Go ahead, Commander.
Wraiths are large flying units with 120 health and 0 armor. They have 2 weapons. One weapon does 8 normal damage versus ground, gaining 1 point of damage per upgrade. The other weapon does 20 explosive damage versus air, with +2 damage per upgrade. Wraiths cost 150 minerals, 100 gas, and 2 supply. They are built from the starport. Wraiths can have their energy storage upgraded and can research the ability to cloak, both from the control tower add-on to the starport. The Wraith cloaking ability is not permanent. It costs 25 energy to enter cloak, and drains energy over time as long as the Wraith stays cloaked. You can decloak at any time to start regenerating energy, but it'll cost another 25 energy to cloak again. The dropship is a large flying transport with 150 health and 1 armor. Being a transport, it has no attack. Dropships cost 100 minerals, 100 gas, and 2 supply to build. They can only be built from a starport which has a control tower add-on. They are the only transport in the game which costs gas to build, and there aren't any special upgrades you can research for them. The only way dropships can be improved is by upgrading their armor. Valkyries are large flying units with 200 health and 2 armor. They attack by firing a volley of 8 missiles doing 6 explosive area of effect damage each against flying units, with +1 damage to each missile per upgrade. Valkyries cost 250 minerals, 125 gas, and 3 supply to build. You build from a starport with an attached control tower, and you also have to own an armory in order to build Valkyries. The Valkyrie attack fires a lot of missiles. The missiles don't do much damage per hit, which means they aren't very effective against high enemy armor. But they add up to a lot of damage, which means when the enemy has many units clustered close together, Valkyrie missiles can do a lot. The Science Vessel is a large flying spellcaster with 200 health and 1 armor. It has no attack. Science Vessels cost 100 minerals, 225 gas, and 2 supply. They are built from a starport with an attached control tower, and you must also own a science facility. Science Vessels start with the Defensive Matrix ability, and you can also upgrade them with the EMP Shockwave and the Irradiate abilities. Both of those are researched from the Science Facility. You can also upgrade their energy storage from the Science Facility. Defensive Matrix costs 100 energy and covers a unit in a shield that absorbs damage directed at that unit until the shield has absorbed 250 damage or about 56 seconds have passed. However, the shield's not perfect. Some damage that is dealt to the unit will still get through. The shield just absorbs most of the damage. EMP Shockwave costs 100 energy, reduces Protoss shields and all energy bars to 0 for all units in the radius of the shockwave, friendly or enemy. Irradiate costs 75 energy, is cast on a unit, and it damages all nearby biological units, including the target if that target is biological. But if the target is not biological, it will not take damage while it is irradiated. The total damage done to something that stays in the irradiate radius for the whole time is 249 damage over 25 seconds. This is particularly useful because almost all Zerg units will die even if they start on full health when you cast an Irradiate on them. It's very helpful for destroying expensive and valuable Zerg units. The Battlecruiser is a large flying unit with 500 health and 3 armor. It has 2 separate weapons, one for air targets and one for ground targets, but both of them deal 25 normal damage per hit and gain +3 damage per upgrade. They're functionally the same. Battlecruisers cost 400 minerals, 300 gas, and 6 supply. They're built from a starport with an attached control tower, and you also have to own a science facility with an attached physics lab. From the physics lab, you can research the Yamato gun ability for the Battlecruiser and upgrade its energy storage. The Yamato gun ability costs 150 energy and does 260 damage to a single target at long range. Despite having very high health and good damage output, Battlecruisers are often used as long-range snipers, targeting their Yamato guns on valuable enemy units and otherwise staying at a distance. This is because they cost so much and take so long to build that you don't want to put them in vulnerable positions. They start with a lot of armor and they gain more with upgrades, so long-range, high-damage anti-air weapons like Goliaths are ideal to take them down. The Ghost is a small ground unit with 45 health and 0 armor. Its weapon does 10 concussive damage versus ground or air targets, gaining 1 damage per upgrade. Building a Ghost costs 25 minerals, 75 gas, and 1 supply, and is done from the barracks, though you need to also own an academy and a science facility with an attached covert ops. From the covert ops, you can research upgrades to increase the Ghost's vision and weapon range, improve their energy storage, and grant them the lockdown and cloak abilities.
Research
Cloak
complete.
for Ghosts works like Cloak for Wraiths. It costs 25 energy to turn on, and it drains energy over time while you stay cloaked, but can be turned off at any time. Lockdown costs 100 energy and it disables a target mechanical unit. The target cannot attack, move, use abilities, be cloaked, or detect anything while it is locked down. It can be attacked, though. The target can't attack, but it can be attacked. Lockdown lasts 44 seconds. Ghosts can call down nuclear missiles. In order to do this, you need to build the nuclear silo add-on on one of your command centers, then construct a nuclear missile in that silo. Each nuclear missile costs 200 minerals, 200 gas, and will take up 8 supply until you fire it. If you have nuclear missiles available, your ghost will be able to use an ability, this ability here, to target a nuclear strike. To do this, the ghost has to stand still for several seconds, during which time a flickering red dot is visible in the position you targeted the nuke. This red dot isn't just a visual display for you, all players in the game who have vision of that spot can see the red dot. All players in the game also get the nuclear launch detected warning announcement. After your ghost has stood still for several seconds, the nuclear missile appears in the sky and drops to the ground, exploding and dealing damage to everything in a wide radius. This missile does either 500 damage or 2/3 of the target's health, or 2/3 of the target's maximum health, whichever is larger, to everything that is at the center of the detonation. The amount of damage done is less for targets that are further away. If you cancel the nuclear strike, or your ghost dies before the launch succeeds, the nuclear missile is lost. The radius of damage that is done by a nuclear missile is such that a ghost who calls down a nuclear strike and doesn't have the range upgrade will be within the nuke's damage radius and will die while calling down the nuke, as you just saw. It is possible to survive by moving your ghost away immediately once the launch succeeds, before the damage is actually done. Alternatively, just research the range upgrade, which allows a ghost to target a nuclear missile further away from itself so the ghost will not be killed by the missile. Ghosts have very low health, don't do much damage, and are only accessible at the very top of the Terran tech tree because you have to have a science facility with a covert ops attached, which means the enemy probably has all their strongest weapons available by the time you can make a ghost. This means ghosts are very rarely built. Their lockdown ability is decent, but it's almost always easier to make your own combat units and kill enemies, rather than trying to cast lockdown on them. Nuclear missiles do a lot of damage if they land on important targets, but the enemy gets a lot of warning that the nuke is coming, and even with cloak available, it can be hard to sneak a ghost into a good position. Ghosts are rarely worth your time unless you really want to see that nuke explosion. This is all of the units that Terran have access to.